All right, let's start with the Bucks. The team you have brought up. They re-signed Thanasis Antetokounmpo to a one-year deal. Kevin Porter Jr., Bobby Portis, Turian Prince, Ryan Rollins, Jericho Sims, and Gary Trent Jr. They added Cole Anthony, Amir Coffey, Gary Harris, and Miles Turner. I'm about to throw up. My God. They said goodbye to Pat Connaughton, Damian Lillard, Brooke Lopez, and Micic. What is your number one thing to watch for the Milwaukee Bucks this season?
How good Giannis is going to be. There's nothing, no other reason to watch the Bucks for this year. They're going to be a 45 to 46 win team off the strength of how great Giannis is going to be. I guess outside of that, it's just who else can step up. Miles Turner is now going to have to step up in a major way on both sides of the ball. Has to become a better rebounder too, or at least box out really well because that's what Brooke Lopez did. And Kevin Porter Jr. He played solid for them last year, so maybe he can improve his game this year with increased role too. It just seems like it's heading nowhere. Like I'm just so over the Bucks
Yep.
because each conversation about them is depressing. It's about, man, what are they going to do because they just have one of the worst rosters in the NBA.
Yeah, they do. One thing to watch is the clear cut thing to watch. It's Giannis and what he does trade wise. This week, Giannis, he talked to some Greek media outlet, and once it got translated into English, it kind of made headlines everywhere. I made a TikTok about it that's in production right now. But basically, what happened is he admitted he's preparing himself for what he called a quote Luca type trade. His exact words were, quote, just because you've given a lot to a team doesn't mean the team won't do what's best for itself. If he's already acknowledging that what's best for Milwaukee is to trade him, what does that tell the franchise? Now, the franchise has to realize what their priorities are. Is it to go into a rebuild and, potentially build a championship contender again? Or is it to sell tickets and sell, that we have hope every year because we have Giannis? It might be a false hope, but if that's if that's their hope, then they will continue down this Giannis lane. If their hope is winning long term, they will trade him because there's nothing else left to do. They have exhausted every output that they can possibly do. And that is the number one thing to watch. Giannis on the other side, he also said in this interview, he got asked, he was like, what would be the one thing that would finally push you over the edge to demand a trade? And he said, it was simple. If I feel like there is no pressure on me or my team, I don't want to be here. And he means championship pressure by that. With the Milwaukee Bucks, I feel like this is the closest he's ever been to having no pressure. Nobody expects Milwaukee to go out and win the Eastern Conference or win an NBA championship. So I don't know what his definition of that is, but it seems like from those comments, it could go either way at any point.
It can. I think he's preparing for it. I think more so he's preparing for being blindsided by it
Yes.
because Luka Doncic wasn't advised or even let known about the trade that was happening. He was blindsided by it.
Mm.
I feel like if the Bucks traded Giannis, it would be more collaborative. I feel like Giannis wouldn't be blindsided, but then again, I would have felt that way about Luka before he got traded
Yep.
because once you let the player know that you plan on trading him, now the player is able to control where he wants to go, is able to set a narrative, and that can affect trade negotiations a lot. There's also another part of this where maybe the team wants to work with Giannis to send him to the best place possible for him to win a championship. But at that point, you're not looking out for the best interests of your own organization. So I can understand why Giannis feels conflicted about with the direction of the team because, yeah, he could be let known about it because he's meant so much to the franchise, or they could blindside him like they did to Luca. So he's just preparing for that type of outcome because he understands this team. He understands what
Right.
he's looking at. He knows the roster. He knows this roster isn't any good.
Yeah, 100%. And what's interesting about what he said with the Lucas stuff is it came after they re-signed his brother. Because I think everyone's reaction once they re-signed Thanasis is like, oh, Giannis ain't going anywhere. He's at least going to start the season there and probably finish it there as well. But like the fact that he's already thinking about the team could do, what they could do, that was very interesting to me. What is your record prediction for the Bucks this year?
I think 45 and 45 and 38, I
Yeah.
think would be the, or 45 and 37.
Yeah, mine's around there too. I said 42 and 40. I got them finishing third in this division. Let's go to the team Miles Turner from the Bucks just left. That's the Indiana Pacers. They re-signed Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman. They added Jay Huff. via trade with the Grizzlies, and they said goodbye to both Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant. What is your number one thing to watch?
How well Andrew Nemhard plays now being the starting point guard
Mm-hmm.
and the leaps from the young players that I'm expecting. Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, those are the two that I really have an eye on. I think this team is going to be really good. Tyrese meant a lot to the pace of the offense, the efficiency,
Wait,
the low volume turnovers.
you said really good?
It's elite. It's elite.
You think this
Absolutely.
team's going to be really good? I was just making sure.
Yes, I think this team is going to be really good. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if they're just as good as Milwaukee. They have a similar record to Milwaukee because the Bucks might have Giannis, but the Pacers have Pascal Siakam. The Pacers
No,
have Andrew Nemhard. The Pacers have Aaron Nesmith. They have Benedict Mathurin.
Lord have mercy.
They have depth.
You just said Giannis and Pascal Siakam, but they don't have Tyrese Halliburton. That's the problem.
They
My
have
number
an
one thing
elite
to
head
watch is not
coach.
even Tyrese's absence or Andrew Nemhard or any of that. It's their depth at the center position, at the big man position. They let go of both Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant. They're gone. They replaced Turner and Bryant with James Wiseman and Jay Huff. What wins does that convert to? None. And
James
not only to
Wiseman looked
mention,
good for them last year
stop.
before he got hurt. He
Thomas
did.
Bryant was huge in the playoffs for them. Miles Turner, obviously, we know his role. They lost their starting two big men, and they're replacing with James Wiseman and Jay Huff. I don't think this
Thomas
team's going to be
Bryant
anywhere near as good as
was
Milwaukee. I don't think
huge.
Milwaukee's going to be good.
Thomas Bryant, he got benched for Tony Bradley throughout the playoffs.
Tony Bradley ain't on this roster either. Yikes.
Yeah, the center depth is a concern, and I think that I would feel better about this team had they kept Miles Turner. There's no doubt about it. But there's still about 8 good players on this team. They still have TJ McConnell. They still have Nemhard. They have Nesmith. They have Mathurin. They have Pascal Siakam. They have Jarris Walker. I mean, this team is still this talented top to bottom.
James Wiseman, number one, has been one of the biggest busts in NBA history. Number two, he hasn't been able to stay on the court due to injuries. Jay Huff, he was a revelation in Memphis.
He's good. He's good.
Let's not go that far.
And they're getting back Isaiah Jackson.
He was a revelation in Memphis, but there was reasons he could not get put on the court in anything but October, November, and December regular season games. He couldn't play in the playoffs, and he could not play down the stretch because you know why? He doesn't play defense. Yes, you get Isaiah Jackson back, but that's a serious injury he's coming off of. And quite frankly, replacing Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant with James Wiseman and Jay Huff is not the answer. They're not missing one starter in
Jay Huff's
Tyrese
better
Halliburton.
than Thomas Bryant. Jay Huff is better than Thomas Bryant. He's actually a better backup big than anything they had last year, actually.
So you're saying, okay, I'm not going to argue that. What I am going to argue is they did not just lose one starter. They lost two, Miles Turner and Tyrese Halliburton. That's why I have this team in the 30s as far as wins. I have them going 37 and 45. And in the Eastern Conference, I wanted to give them more than that. But whenever you don't have your all NBA point guard and you're losing one of the best role-playing big men in the entire NBA and Miles Turner and replacing them with what they replaced him with, I don't see this team even cracking 40 wins.
Yeah, that's insane because the East is weak and they're going to crack 40 wins without a doubt. And I'm going to Vegas with that one because I know Vegas is low on the Pacers just like you. And I get it. It's the small market tax. It's the fact that, oh, they're in a small market. They're in Indiana. Who cares about Indiana basketball? I care about Indiana basketball, okay? I care about Indiana basketball. And I think it's going to be some good basketball this year. I look at the players on the team. Andrew Nemhard, Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, TJ McConnell, Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin. Bro, they still have 8 to 9 really good players.
But none of the guys you named outside of one was a big man. That's the problem, Joel. That is the problem.
They're getting back Isaiah Jackson.
Okay.
And they have Jay
He's coming
Huff.
off a major injury. Let's just say he stays healthy. But, all right, James Wiseman's checking in midway through the first quarter. What the hell is that? That's not a winning team.
Isaiah Jackson, Jay Huff, I think it's not ideal, but is okay. You can manage that. You can manage that. Yes, you can.
You can manage it on the way to 37 wins. That's how you can manage it.
The Raptors with Pascal Siakam, when Kawhi left, they were the second seed in the Eastern Conference.
Don't even compare this roster to that.
Pascal Siakam.
Tyrese Halliburton is not playing. Miles Turner's not there.
That's why they're not a contender this year. If Tyrese was playing, they would be a contender this year. But because he's not, they're a playoff team. They're gonna make the playoffs. There's no doubt about it.
This team is a hell of a lot closer to the Celtics this year than they are to any Toronto Raptors iteration of Pascal Siakam.
Of course, I think they're gonna have a better record than Boston, though.
I think it's going to be similar shot for shot. They're going to be in the upper 30s for wins, and we can agree to disagree. Have you said the record, by the way? Have you said what their record will be?
41-41.
It's really going out on a limb.
Yeah,
Huffing and puffing. You
it's
have
not
them
in the
winning 4
30s.
more games tonight.
Yeah, because I think they're going to be a good team. I don't think they're going to be world beaters, but I think every single night they're going to come to play. And I think you're sleeping on Andrew Nemhart a little bit. I feel like you don't believe in what he can really be, and I do, and that's the difference.
No, I do believe in Andrew Nemhart. I'm excited to see him in a bigger role. But whenever there is no big man and rebounding and defense becomes a problem, that is where I think this cracks, and that's why it will not result in success.
Andrew Nemhart is an all NBA level defender. They have good defenders on this team still. Miles Turner didn't make or break this defense, and neither did Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton was the reason this team went as far as they did. And I know
Yeah.
you're not arguing that they're going to be a championship contender, but whenever I'm talking about a winning record, Andrew Nemhard cannot be your second best player night to night. That's the problem.
You don't believe in Nemhart, okay? Noted.
I believe in him on what his role was last year. And I think
Noted.
this will be good long term for his career, and he can elevate into that third star for them to ultimately win a championship. This team was 1 win away last year, but this team has now lost 2 starters and lost some serious depth at the center position, and that's why I have them with a losing record. Let's move on to a better team, a team that's going to be a lot better than them in the Eastern Conference, and that's the Detroit Pistons. They re-signed Paul Reed. They added Javante Green, Karis LeVert, and Duncan Robinson. They said goodbye to Simone Fontecchio, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, and Lindy Waters. What is your number one thing to watch in Detroit?
What Jaden Ivey brings to the team. He's going to be awesome for them. He was awesome last year before he got hurt. And the Detroit Pistons are the most slept on, under the radar team in the East right now. We talked about Atlanta and Orlando and the moves they made. They were very pretty. They dressed up their offseason nice. The Pistons, under the radar. Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert. Okay, those are solid moves. But nobody was like, whoa. They didn't make a whoa move, but Jaden Ivey could be that whoa move that they make. Him being added to this team, having more reliability from your vets with Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert, who I love Karis LeVert. I love his game. I love everything about Karis LeVert. And then the development from these young players, Asar and Jalen Durant, I think the Pistons are going to be even better than last season. And Cade Cunningham being even better than last season. I think the Pistons are flying under the radar. And we're talking about Atlanta and we're talking about Orlando, and we're not talking about Detroit enough.
Yeah, I think the Jaden Ivey point definitely needs to be highlighted. Jaden Ivey is the reason they could let Dennis Schroeder walk in free agency. Karis LeVert, adding him is the reason they could let Tim Hardaway walk in free agency. I'm not a Karis LeVert guy. I'm not here singing his praises, but I'm also not a Tim Hardaway Jr. guy. I think they cancel each other out. Jaden Ivey can be a massive step up from Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder had a great end to the season last year, but there was a reason he was on 3 different teams in 1 year. That happened last year. I don't know why Sacramento paid him. That's a whole nother conversation. But Jaden Ivey, I think that is the number one thing to watch. Another thing I want to highlight is Cade Cunningham's rise. Is he ready to be that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander of this team? Is he ready to be that Jalen Brunson of this team? Is he ready to elevate his team into finals contenders? That is what I can't wait to see, because I feel like for Cade, it is time. They took that step last year, and I feel like this step sets up perfectly in this Eastern Conference climate. Because when you look at the East, outside of the Cavs and New York, who are you scared of? You can throw Atlanta into that basket. You can throw Orlando into there. But I think Detroit is eye to eye with both of those teams this season.
I think they are too. And they have so much young talent and continuity, which I think is the most important. Atlanta has to learn how to play with each other a little bit. They're adding a major piece in Porzingis when he's healthy, and that's going to take some time to get used to. In Orlando, they've had some injury troubles the last 2 seasons. Jalen Suggs has been hurt. Paolo's been hurt. Franz has been hurt at some points in the season. So they've had some of those things they've had to worry about. Detroit just feels like a consistent team that loves playing together. They all understand their roles, and the additions that they made are more reliable additions. You know, Malik Beasley and Hardaway Jr. were good for the Pistons last year, but Duncan Robinson is a more reliable player than both of them. And Karis LeVert is also a more reliable player who he's not just a one-trick pony. He's not just going to stand somewhere and catch and shoot. He is somebody that can shoot really well, but he can create for himself and others. He can penetrate the basket, and that's going to up the Pistons' assist rate. And Dennis Schroeder was made expendable because of that addition, but also because Marcus Sasser, the young point guard who they just drafted, I mean, he didn't play much last year, but when he did play, he looked good, and they're trusting him to keep on improving as well. So I love the continuity of the Pistons. I love the motor they play with. I love the passion they play with, the physicality, and I'm all in on Detroit.
Yeah, and when you look at their competition, we both brought up, the Hawks and Magic. I feel like they have things that Detroit does not have, and that is the word if. Whenever it comes to the Hawks, it's if Porzingis can stay healthy. It's if Porzingis can fit. It's if Jalen Johnson can bounce back from that injury. The Magic, it's if Paulo and Franz can stay healthy. It's if Desmond Bane fits right away. It's if they have enough depth. It's if they can solve those shooting woes. With Detroit, there's really no if. Yes, you would like to have Malik Beasley back, but with everything he went through, to go out and get Duncan Robinson is good. I don't like the price for Duncan Robinson, but they had to replace the shooting from somewhere, and that was really the only guy that was on the market. So I think Detroit has a lot less question marks than those two teams, and that's why I have them as a 50-win team this year, going 50-32. What is your record prediction there?
I like 50 as well. You know, I think they can go 52 and 30. 52 and 30 would be a really good team.
Like it.
Be one of the top teams in the East. Something that is needed in this Eastern Conference landscape. A team to step up.
For sure. Let's go to the bottom of that Eastern Conference landscape. Let's go to Chicago Bulls. Offseason overview is they re-signed Trey Jones and Josh Giddey on that $100 million deal. They added Isaac Okoro and they said goodbye to Alonzo Ball in that same trade. What is your number one thing to watch for them? Because I'm going to be honest, if they were in my backyard, I would not open the blinds.
If Josh Giddey's good,
Yeah,
that's it. He got paid, and there were a lot of Bulls fans defending him getting paid and how it's good and it's a value contract. I guess in this modern NBA, players that don't contribute to winning basketball get paid 25 million left and right. So I guess it's all right. But Billy Donovan wants to run a fast-paced offense. He wants to be the number one pace team in the league, and they were that last year. And the Bulls were fun to watch. Like the Bulls play fast, they score a lot of points, and that fits Josh Giddey's play style. His numbers blew up when his 3-point percentage blew up, and it rose to unsustainable rates where I'm looking at if he can become a reliable shooter. Was that fake, or is he just becoming a great shooter? Because that changes things. If he becomes a great shooter, it changes his trajectory. I now all of a sudden stop becoming hesitant and I start believing in it more because he can pass the ball. He's a smart player. And if the shooting comes along, I would be really encouraged by that. But outside of Giddey, I think the Bulls are just looking for some hope for the future, and that's Mataz Buzelis, that's Noah Sengay. It's their young players, and that's what they have to look forward to this year.
Look, there's a reason that the Oklahoma City Thunder traded Josh Giddey and immediately won an NBA champion. You can argue that fit was that reason, and I agree with that. But it's also his conversion to winning. We're early in his career. It's too early to judge him. But if I were to judge him, the team that drafted him, who had all of that invested in him, traded him and won an NBA championship. The number one thing to watch is what you just said. Is he a $100 million player? Bulls fans can defend this all they want. I know they're not going to like to hear this, but the answer is no. Right now, he is not a $100 million player. And the second way I would approach this is free agency. There was no other leverage anywhere. I'm going to say this, and this was my problem with the De'Aaron Fox deal that we've argued about 100 times. If there's no leverage, you don't have to pay him what you have to pay him. I know the Chicago Bulls have a salary cap floor you have to hit. Not a lot of people talk about that. Yes, there's a salary cap that everyone has to stay under, but there's also a floor for the bad teams. And I think that is not the way that you hit that floor. You could have it on lesser years. I have no problem with him making $25 million a year because somebody on that roster has to right now. But does it have to be a 4 year deal that could handicap you over the next 4 years and not compute to any success from there? I have this team finishing 30-52. I don't know if that's good enough for the plan. It might be in the Eastern Conference. Where do you see them finishing?
I kind of see them as a 35, 36 win team. They still have Giddy and Kobe White, and I think their young players are going to be better. I think they're going to be a good watch. They're going to be fun. They're going to be fun. They're not going to be
Yeah.
awesome, but they're going to be a playing team. I think that's kind of a lock for the Bulls. Every year they're in the playing.
For sure. Let's get to the final team in this division. Cleveland Cavaliers. They re-signed Sam Merrill. They added Lonzo Ball, Larry Nance, and Thomas Bryant. They said goodbye to Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro. My number one thing to watch for them is, does replacing Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro with Lonzo Ball and Larry Nance make this team any better? My answer would be no. What is your number one thing to watch?
It makes them better. It's just doesn't make them healthy, and to be determined.
Yeah.
Lonzo Ball is an upgrade over the bench that they had last year, at least from a defensive perspective. Because Ty Jerome was awesome last year, but you can't stick Ty Jerome on an opposing offensive player. And offensively in the playoffs, it didn't look good in the second round. Lonzo Ball instantly becomes the Cavaliers' best perimeter defender.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if he's healthy, it swings things for them. And Larry Nance is some good versatility, just, have a big body, some size. And I feel like the Cavs needed to add size. So that was good for them. But it just comes down to health because Darius Garland was not healthy in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell kind of got banged up in the second round as well. The year before, you had Jared Allen that was injured and also Garland. So now, Mitchell too, can they stay healthy? Because
Yeah.
they added an injury prone player to the roster now. So it seems like that idea becomes even more far fetched. But if they are healthy, this is a 60-win team. And this is a team that can make it to the NBA Finals. That's how good they are.
100%. You and I agree. I got them at 59 and 23. I think the playoff is where we might disagree. I mean, you predict the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals, so who knows? Maybe we agree. But Ty Jerome and Isaac are replacing that with Lonzo and Larry Nance is whatever to me. Lonzo Ball, yes, you can argue is a better fit than Ty Jerome. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it's a much higher risk than Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome, you know what you got. He did not come up big in the playoffs, but for me, a team with title intention should not rely on Ty Jerome off the bench to, come up big for. That should the blame should be on Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and all the other stars they have there. It should not be on Ty Jerome. Lonzo Ball, if he's not hurt, there's no Ty Jerome there. They just don't have a backup guard there. And that is why this team, yes, we both believe can be a 60-win team, but I argue what their ceiling is in the NBA playoff.
Their ceiling is the finals.
I think unless something catastrophic goes wrong, it will be the New York Knicks representing the East. Let's rank this division. I have the Bulls at 5, Pacers at 4, Bucks at 3, Pistons at 2, and Cavs at 1. I have the Bucks winning 42 games, Pacers winning 37. That's the difference between.
I have that same exact order. I would not be surprised if the Pacers are over the Bucks though when it's all said and done.
I would be.